Hello all, good evening, good morning, and good afternoon. So let's wait for a few more minutes, maybe 2, 3 minutes, and then we'll start the session. Let's give some people some more time. Before we start, there was few people who are telling I think 1 or 2 people were telling say they are not responding. So did you, by any chance, did they get back to you for the course details and stuffs? If not, kindly let me know. I can arrange a call back. If you got your things, then it's good. Maybe let me start sharing my screen and maybe let's get started for today. Okay, so welcome back to the session. So let's get started for today. So today's session, okay, so let's do something like a recap of yesterday's session. So yesterday we had an introduction. We had say what we do and what gets you to enroll to this session. So we had those things actually interaction, and then we saw what is Appium and why we use it, what and all we can automate it, and what is the limitation of it, and autonomous AI cloud. Just we briefed it. And do we use any cloud application with your APM? Yes, we saw something. Okay. And what are the tools used? We saw something over here. And yeah, so this is the overall thing actually we saw about it. So any doubts, anything before we proceed further? So today we'll go to some technical part of it, but is there something like before we start you want to ask, or something from the syllabus perspective that you want to discuss, or something? We can have a quick discussion. So kindly let me know if there is something. So I can pause for 10, 20 seconds. If there is no items, then we can proceed further. So the stage is yours actually. So you've been say a silent crowd for some time. So it's time to speak up. So what is your requirement and what do you expect from the course? I got yesterday a few items from few people, but just reiterating it. So anything that you want to tell, please do let me know. Maybe I'll just pause for some 10, 20 seconds. Okay, so if there is nothing, let's proceed it further. Okay, so again, welcome back to the day session. Okay, for automation testing. So this is the day one. So yesterday was day zero. So I consider this as a day one. So today we'll see about some technical things actually, which is related to APM and how does the APM work, and how do you connect your devices and all those stuffs. Let's see about it. Ah, I think someone raised their hand. Yes, please. Yeah, please unmute yourself, or if you're not feeling comfortable with speaking, you can just ping it actually. I think it's Vipin, right? Yes, Vipin, please go ahead. I think if you're on mute, I don't think so you're on mute, but if you're speaking, we are unable to hear you. Okay, is there something? Okay, to the crowd, like say, is my voice audible and my screen visible? Is it fine? Maybe do you hear me and do you see my screen? Now I'm on the team screen. Maybe someone can confirm it as a yes or no in the chat. Maybe. Okay, so thanks for the confirmation. Yes, Vipin, do let us know in case if you find something. So let's proceed it. So let's get back to the slides. Yeah. So let's get back to the slide. I hope you went through the syllabus part. So maybe I'll also do that today as well. Okay, but let's see the mobile automation part. So this is an introduction and these are the apps that we have seen. Okay, so some of the apps and this is an hybrid app. So let me connect my device and okay, maybe not right now. Yeah. But later in the session we'll connect it and I'll show you. So basically, like say which app to use. So yesterday we saw like say what is hybrid, native, and then web apps. So depending on all these things, which app to choose. So technically it depends upon the user base and also depends upon like say what is the technology stack that you're using. Okay, so this is more into the development time. Okay, development perspective, I would say. So it depends on all these criteria, I would say. Okay, so it's like say the performance, how it should be there, the desired feature, the development time, and the budget constraint. So budget constraint related to the organization. So based on this thing, they go for either like say a hybrid app or a native app or a web app. Okay, it can vary. Okay, so that's about it. Which one to choose it? So just to reiterate, native apps are nothing but which is with respect to your device or the platform. Okay, and web application is respect to the browsers that you hold it. So it can be technically it's platform independent, I would say, because in any browser it should open, whether it's an iOS platform or a Windows, like say, or an Android platform, it doesn't matter. Okay, and then hybrid application in the sense it's again a native application, but there will be a layer of web application available. So that part of web application, we call it as your web view content. Okay, so web view content. So, okay, okay, so technically what happens is like say a hybrid application. So that means maybe let me quickly share it an example. Let me open my Android Studio. So I hope you can see my Android Studio and my device. Let me see. Yeah, and my device is connected. So this is my Pixel device, okay, that I hold. So if you want to check, like say, hybrid application, so let me go to the Swag Lab app. Okay, so this is the demo app that we are going to use, okay, for our testing where most features are available. So let me log in. And then for a web view, you can see over here, there's a web view. If I enter the URL https colon slash slash www dot bing.com or any website, I would say. For example, I give the Bing. So it opens over here. So this type of application only we call it as your hybrid applications. Okay. So that means it's a native app. And inside that you open any web browser and you can do anything like say logo design something. You do it, it searches, it gets the result for you. So this is what you call it as a hybrid application. And a native application looks something like, uh, maybe I can go for this app, a BBC. Okay, so this is a news app, so wherein we don't have much of a external system or browsers available. So you can just use it like this. Okay, everything is within this app itself. So you don't need to depend on any external browser or any dependency for this specific app. And web apps, technically you can go to your Chrome or any browser. Since I'm using a Pixel, so Chrome is my default browser, so I go for it. And you can give like say www.atlantis.com. Okay, so atlantis.com. So this is an application as part of the Dubai project, I would say. So you have this Atlantis web page. So this is how you can see the view is available. But the same view you can open it in a normal Chrome, I would say, something like this: www.atlantis.com, and enter it, and you see it. So side by side, if you see the view, the texture, everything would be different. Okay, so this is how the difference lies. And in some web app application, usually if you observe the URL at the top, right? If I see the URL at the top over here, so it starts with m.atlantis.com, something like m.atlantis. Maybe this doesn't work, but sometimes few websites looks like this. Okay, but here it doesn't work. Okay, if you open facebook.com, sometimes it does open like that, maybe some couple of months back or years back. Okay, but right now I think, yeah, you can see it over here, m.facebook.com. So that means this is mobile only feature, so your features might be limited. Okay, so that's why it is showing like m.facebook.com, which makes it to be more a web apps perspective. Okay, so any doubts in these so far, like what is a web app and what is like a normal web application or a native application, or something called your hybrid application? So we saw these three examples in each app. Okay, and most probably your native application needs a Play Store. So inside that only you can download it. Okay, and you can use it up. Okay, so any doubts, anything so far till now? Okay, that's good. So if something is there, let me know. So let me check the chat as well. Okay, nothing is there much. Okay, so let's proceed it. So which app to use or which app to choose, it depends upon your performance, how performance oriented your application needs to be, and what are the features available, because web application, native, and then your hybrid have different features. You need to choose from that. For example, your native application can easily do the payment system on its own. But if you go for a hybrid, you need to open a web page, give your credit card numbers or debit card number, and enter the OTP and then proceed it up. And budget constraint as well. So it depends. So there is sometimes, if you go for iOS, is a classic example. If you want to develop app only for an iOS, it needs a developer access. You want to push the code, that it means like say you need to pay something for for the iOS app store to scan and then publish the app inside the app store or the play store, sorry, app store for iOS. Okay, so that's all is required. So each platform has their own set of things that needs to be taken care, and the development time. Okay, so usually an hybrid application takes a little bit more time, and native application can be done a little bit easily because it has its own platform and own behavior, everything. So it should be an easy one. And going to the prerequisite, as we saw, like say you need to have Java, Selenium, Android SDK, and Xcode. And here, if a Windows user, right, a Windows user, I would say, like say, a Windows user can handle Android, maximum, he can't go to iOS. Okay, but if you want to perform iOS, there is again like say cloud environments. Some free sources are available. I will show you the trick how to use a free source and how to automate it. So you don't need to have a physical device also. Okay, or if you are having physical device, unfortunately in Windows you can't connect. The only option would be like say using a cloud provider, but that would be an easy task actually. So I can show you how it is done. Yeah. So in the cloud provider, even in a free source, you can find out some physical devices, virtual devices, everything. So nowadays, like a lot of people are using the cloud to automate it and to run it as a regression case. Okay. So that's one thing. And also for a Mac users, I saw yesterday a lot of Mac users were there, 2, 3 Mac users. So Mac users, you have much more liberal, so you can do anything in your machine. So you can connect your Android, you can connect your iOS, you can do anything. I would say simply you can do anything on that. Okay, so this is how it works. And then you have the Appium automation. So just the intro part of it. So it's open source library file, I would say, and how you can use it. So you can just go to google.com and type Appium download. So there is an official APM website itself is available. So where you can see the installation, quick guide and all those things. Okay. So the latest version I would say is like 2.19 is the latest version available. Okay. 2.x.x usually I represent it. Okay. You can just go through this one. So it has a very good forum, I would say. So and support, I would say. Let me ping it over here. Yeah. So you have all the references over here, but how to use, when to use. So we give you the help for that. Okay. So this is how it works, I would say. I'll share you the slide deck later in today's evening. Okay. And as you know, like say APM supports both hybrid, your web apps, your native apps, anything you want to automate, it will support. So there is no restriction, I would say. Okay. It will support each and everything. Okay, just give me a second. Let me grab some water. Okay, so this is how it is about. Like say APM, it's an open source. This is a quick start guide, and then it automates anything and everything related to your mobile. And these are some of the advantages I would say. Like say it's an open source, and it provides automation of everything, and then the everything in the sense the native app, the hybrid app, and then the web browsers as well. And also it supports major programming languages, Java, Python, C Sharp, JavaScript. But even though it supports all these languages, each one has a different framework available. So if it's going to be Java, they use either a TestNG or a Cucumber to automate it, where both are very little famous, I would say. Okay. And if it's a Python, it's going to be PyTest. If it's a C Sharp, it's going to be a SpecFlow or MS Test. And if it's a JavaScript, technically we have a WebDriver IO. So these are some of the frameworks, and the APM doesn't change, but the way we use it, it changes. Okay. So that's how it works, and it can integrate with your CI/CD. So whatever you have, your Circle CI, your Jenkins, your Azure, your AWS, anything it will work with. Okay, and you can test your code with your emulators, simulators, real device, cloud-based mobile services, anything. Okay, whatever you name it, your Appium has full support to it. So there is no stopping it, I would say. And there is also something called a XUI test in Espresso. So anyone in our channel, okay, in our group, have you heard about it? XUI test in Espresso? Anyone? Anyone heard about it? Espresso or XUI test?
We
Anyone?
try
Maybe
to
feel free
limit
to drop a
the
message.
batch
Yes, no,
strength
something like
from
that.
15 to 20 guys. Maximum we will keep it as 20 because we do not want to make it very
So in
crowded.
case if
We
you
want
heard
you all to
about
be,
it,
getting the maximum benefit out of the sessions. And
no,
it will be basically
okay.
on a first come first serve
Any other
basis. So we'll not be
persons?
accommodating everyone, guys. Once we have 15 to 20 people, we will close the
I heard that one.
registrations.
And yeah,
So
Lok says
please
yes.
remember there will be initially two to
Okay,
three
that's
sessions
cool.
which will be theoretical. However, after
Okay,
that,
thanks for
every
the
session
replies.
will be
And
practical. It will be
yes,
hands-on, guys. Everything will be
maybe
demonstrated.
Alok, can you explain, like, say, like, what you heard and what's your experience on that? Maybe you can also type in, so no problem. Either way, it works. So maybe Alok or someone. Okay, no problem. Okay. Ah, okay. Vipin is not having access to the chat. Okay. So maybe he posted something in the chat. Basically, okay, so this is from Alok. It's basically a UI testing framework for Android. Okay.
Hi all.
Yeah, that's
Good morning.
true.
Good evening.
Actually, that
Welcome to another
organization work on
session of our
Android.
exclusive
Yes, that is
training
exactly
Jmeter
true.
Beginner to
So
Master with
basically, like
Groovy,
this is
Dynatrace,
one of the
Kubernetes,
limitation or
Docker,
disadvantage I would tell.
InfluxDB,
So
Grafana,
usage of
Jenkins, and Blazmeter.
XUI
So
test
yesterday we
or
discussed
espresso,
about response
these kind of
assertion. We
behavior
implemented
or
response
the
assertion.
orchestration is not
Before I
possible
start
in
for the
UAT.
day, anyone has any?
Okay, so why it's not possible is like say, did anyone hear about DDD framework or approach? So let me put it like this: DDD approach, domain driven development. So, or like say this also test driven development. So, any of you heard about these two terms? Maybe. Okay, that's good. Okay. So DDDs or TDD is nothing but they use this type of testing, XUI test or an espresso. Okay. Why? Because you need to know the domain first, what domain you're going to develop the application. Or I would say, like say TDD is a very good approach. Okay. Test driven development. So what happens here is like say, maybe I'll go with the test driven development. So domain, they don't do that much of this testing, I would say. So let's stick on to TDD. So TDD is nothing but first. you will be writing the test cases. So whether it's an automation, so most probably it's going to be the automation test cases. And then what you do is like say build the application based on the
Hi all,
failing
good morning, good
test
evening. Welcome to
cases.
another session of our
Okay,
exclusive
so
training,
that's how the
Jmeter
test
Beginner to
driven
Master
approach
with
will be
Groovy,
handled.
Dynatrace,
So how you're going
Kubernetes,
to write
Docker.
the test cases? So
So
it will
this
be
also
written,
works. Okay, I'm
test cases is written as a uh, written as a application based. So that means I will go there, I will check if a button is available. If it's available, then it's a pass. If it doesn't available, then it's a failure. So that means what happens here is like say the test cases will drive the development activities. Okay, test case will drive the development activities. If a test case fails, first they'll fix the test case by developing the application as parts and then they move further. Okay, so this is what we call it as a test driven development. Okay, so in this use cases, what happens is like we need to the code of the application, access the code of the application, and then write the test cases.
see
Okay,
it here.
so you need to dig deep into the
See all
code,
of it.
write
This
all the
request, for
test
example.
cases,
Okay,
and once it fails,
now
they develop the feature. Okay, and this approach uses the automation tool called your XCUI test if it's an iOS,
easy.
and if
So
it's an
people
Android,
kept
it's
on
going to
using
be your
probably, and
Espresso.
that is why
Okay,
what has
so
happened
these
is
two things will help you to these two stuffs where you need the code access, you get the code, you develop your script, and it fails, you develop
hi
the
all,
application.
good morning, good evening.
This is
Welcome to
how
another
it
session of our exclusive
works.
training, Jmeter Beginner to Master with Groovy,
Okay,
Dynatrace,
so this
Kubernetes,
approach is
Docker,
most probably adapted
InfluxDB,
towards your test
Grafana,
driven
Jenkins,
development
and Blazemeter.
phase.
So we have started with the test script development
Okay,
for APIs, right? And in the previous session, we also saw the implementation or test script development for two get calls. Uh,
okay, so any doubt, anything so far till now?
so today we will see the other ones. Okay.
Okay,
So
that's fine.
before I start
Okay,
for the
so
day,
XUI
anyone has any
test needs an
queries from the previous
iOS.
session?
Okay, and Espresso needs an Android. So this is as part of your Android
Anyone has any
Studio,
queries from the
I
previous
would tell.
session?
So we'll come to that at later
I
point.
also
And
showed you,
XUI
right,
test is
how can
not
we do
as part of your
parameterization, and I
Xcode.
discussed you the concept for
Nah,
correlation,
yes, we cannot mix and match, but you can install Android Studio inside your
right?
iOS, as I told
Yes.
yesterday.
Okay.
Okay, and
So
then you can use it
let
up.
me
So this is, or like say, I'll put it in another way,
one moment,
like
everyone.
handling the code to write the test cases cannot be done inside Appium. There is a limitation because Appium is something like a UI based tool. Okay, all the UI activities are performed using the Appium. But if you are using an Espresso or XUI test, it is based upon your code. But again, it's a UI based tool only. Okay, and the Appium does not work with the application code directly, which I said and it needs an APK file or an IPA file or a zip file, any of these. And each one has a significance. If it's an APK, so it will be specific to Android. If it's an IPA, it's a real device. Okay, and in iOS, if you don't have a real device, then you need to use the simulators. Okay, and iOS can be has different extension. So if it's an Android, you can give the app name or app as a .apk file. Okay, and if it's iOS, if it's a real device, then its extension will be .ipa. If it's a simulator device, the extension will be zip.
Hi
So
all.
even
Good morning. Good
inside
evening.
your iOS itself, you cannot mix and match. So that means like say I cannot use an IPA file inside your uh, inside a real device, inside a simulator. And the simulator zip file I cannot use inside a real device. So that compatibility is never there. Okay. So these are some of the advantages and disadvantage I will tell. And how does it work? Okay. So let me show some diagram over here on how does it work. Okay, just give me a second. Just give me a second.
Hi all. Good morning. Good evening. Welcome to another.
Okay, so how does it work? Let me tell you. Just give me a second. Yeah. So technically what happens is like say let's have it as a real device, I would say. Okay, so let's have a real device. And inside this there is a communicator which I can call it as your Appium server. Okay. And again you have something called your code. I would say like say automation code. Okay, so then you have the automation code. So what happens now is like say through your automation code, okay, so you transfer the code to your Appium server and the Appium server again should respond back to you. Got it? And the Appium server in turn will communicate to your real device and your real device should communicate back to your Appium server. So whether it's going to be a real device or it's going to be like say simulator, it's up to you. Okay, so we don't have uh any differences that much I would say, but I'll tell you the differences. Okay, and how does this work? So you put your automation code. So this is like say a Java code that we are going to use it and it's going to get transmitted to your Appium server. So how does it get transmitted? So inside your Appium server, so there is something called your ADB, okay, which stands for your Android Debug Bridge. I would say Android Debug Bridge. Okay, so let me put it like this. Android Debug Bridge. And if it's an iOS, right? Okay, as the name suggests, and ADB is only for your Android. And if it's going to be your iOS, what happens is like say we have another system which we can call it as your XCUI test, or you can also call it as your Xcode, Xcode, or anything. I would say XUI test or your Xcode. So now what happens is like when you want to communicate to this device as a real end product, so you send the code to your Appium And what happens is, like, say Appium will check with the XUI test if there is any linked device available or not from here. And if it is available, then it will send it back to the XUI test. And from the XUI test, it will send it back to the Appium server. So this you don't need to worry about. And a similar fashion will happen for your Android. The Appium server will communicate with your Android bridge, and your Android bridge will be communicating with this one, and this one will send the response back to ADB, and this ADB will send it to the server. And based on this, this transmission happens. Okay, got it? So this is how the interaction happens. So what is ADB? What is XUI test? Okay, so ADB is nothing but your Android debug bridge. So this helps in communicating the code from server to the device. So it's like an intermediary, I would tell. Okay. And similarly, this will happen for your XEUI test or else Xcode. So it interacts with your iOS device and then it communicates back. Okay. So this is how it basically works. And the way of transmission, okay, from Android debug bridge over here and back, we use something called your mobile JSON. Okay. So whatever it might be, even to here as well, we call it as a mobile JSON. Okay. So this is how technically it will work. Okay. So any doubts here so far till now? How does in real-time APM works? I'll show this in turn. Okay, so when we step into the code, definitely I'll show it to you. But for your understanding purpose, this is how it works. So that's what I mentioned over here. So it communicates it with the REST call, which we call it as a mobile JSON wire protocol. So from your ADB to your device, this is how it is done. Okay, and in between you have the server to communicate this one. Your APM server is nothing but, as I told yesterday. So what is an APM server? So anybody can tell. So what is an APM server? Shekhar, for TDD approach. Okay, let me see. Yeah, definitely.